to lunch. Dear Mr. President, I would like to say, I don't know if he's on the line, dear parrain, dear
Ce que j'étais en train d'essayer de faire chez moi aussi.
Dear colleagues here in the salle and the colleagues
J'ai pas de son non plus.
on the line. First of all, I would like to say thank you that you have accepted myself to being a member of the Academy. I know my thanks comes a bit late. I am sorry for that because I'm a member since more than 2 years already, and to do an acceptance speech a bit like that is not normal. When I was getting the certificate from Anne-Marie was rushing me a lot because we were just in time, and I have not said a lot words to thank, so I will repeat that now. Thanks as well for your valuable time to listen to me and to return after lunch and to take the second part of the event. An introduction speech is an excellent opportunity to present myself and to transmit something to the Academy members, which trigger thinking, which initiate dialogue, which create understanding, in short, to tell something to you what is a value for all of us. I have had the privilege to listen to many impressive introduction speech, like the two this morning. I remember well the last one from the session in November, where Paul Wesenberg made a speech, and he presented a message to be European and to think always European.
Allô?
A very important message
Oui.
for all of us.
Oui.
I thought a lot what kind of message I could bring to you.
Oui, je suis au bureau, oui.
Est-ce que tu peux envoyer le numéro de réunion de cet après-midi à tout le monde, aux gens qui étaient là
I
ce matin?
spent all my life in aircraft engineering. But before I come to that, I would like to excuse myself because I'm not speaking French to you. And I would have loved to do so because I'm living since a while, more than 10 years now, in that country, and it is bitter for me to speak English to you. But you cannot do everything. God has given to me a reasonable brain for being an engineer. He has given reasonably, has equipped my brain reasonably with a practical intelligence to manage life. But he forgot totally the capability for languages. It's a real pity. But I have forgiven God for that, or my parents, depending what you think, because at the time I was born, it was September 1945, and that was just 4 months after the war, and ruins were around everywhere, like we have seen by hazard, by chance. We have seen the presentation about that. I didn't know that when I thought about that. But that time, ruins were around. It was cold. There was nothing to house. There was nothing to heat. There was not enough to eat. That were really difficult days for my parents to have a child in that time. And God has provided the facilities to manage life, but He has totally forgotten to do something, put something in my brain for languages. That was not important that days, and therefore I have forgiven for that. But I'm suffering. But let's try to take the positive aspect out of it. Anytime if I talk to you, it is a gratis lesson French for me. But if I talk English to you, it is a bit of a lecture to think European and become more European. Which is, I think, a message which some of you will receive. Furthermore, I would like to say my presentation is a bit different from the other ones because I will not show you plenty of pictures. I will not show you plenty of products. That doesn't mean that I have not participated on impressive projects. It doesn't mean that I have not met important people, but it just means that during my working time, we have never taken pictures. If I'm looking to my files, I have plenty of pictures about the family and the children and the holidays and all that. I have no pictures of my business way. I've never collected it. Neither my own, I've not taken them, or that is quite different what we do today. And when I thought about that, priority was always given to the task. Priority was always given to the work, to the team, to the people around. And there were never a reason to highlight individuals and to take photographs and to document something in that direction. That is quite difficult, quite different what we do today. Therefore, the only chart which I will show is a short view of my past. And then I will talk about a bit about principles of engineering and what we can learn out of that. If you hear that I spent my full life in engineering, I started as an engineer on the drawing board in 1969, and I ended as an engineer in 2012. Close to half a century. I was always in engineering. I was always in design. And if you hear that, I think you would think, that's boring, doing always the same, always doing design, always working on the same product, an aircraft, always working in the same company, Airbus. That is a bit boring. There are other people who have jumped from one to the other and has had a more colorful life. But I must tell you, that life was very, very colorful, and that life was a fascinating path, even if it was always the same, let me say, main occupation and always the same product. Very quickly, the major milestones. I started business in 1969 as a designer on the drawing board. Roughly, I was 10 years on the design office. And after 10 years of design office, I went to the chief engineers teams, and I was always, at the end of the career, somehow linked to the chief engineers teams. And I have participated on all the designs of Airbus, on the A300, just a bit on cargo loading and items where the Germans were involved at that time. The German involvement on the A300 was not so significant design-wise. But on the A310, that was my first Airbus aircraft where I have really participated. When it was launched, when the Brits came and joined the program, I was on the program. I was in the design team to work on the wing. Later on, I will talk a bit more about that. And when the A310 was finished and certified, that was exactly the time where the A320 was launched. At that time, all the teams to do the work, the pre-design was finished, the definition was finished under the leadership of André Bon. Potentially he is listening. And I joined the German chief engineers team. And from the first day of the A320, I was on that program. I was in charge of several coordination, the flight controls, the hydraulics, German part. When the aircraft was built, I was on the aircraft as an engineer. And when the aircraft was coming to Toulouse, I was on the aircraft as an engineer. And I have worked here in Toulouse in the assembly line, doing the design support for the German side, working very, very closely with Jean-Marie Bensoussan, with Monsieur Hubert, and these type of teams to assemble the aircraft and to make it ready for delivery to the first flight and the center. Then I was in charge of the MRP, the mise à point, leading the support, the design team of the German part, and we have done the flight test period. You cannot imagine what kind of period that was. We have had an aircraft which was a revolutionary aircraft. Everything was new. First time, 80 computers on board. The computers with a very, very low capacity compared to what we have today. Each computer has had 0.86 processors, and even worse, and very, very low memory capacity, but anything was computers. Not only the flight controls, not only fly-by-wire, all the systems were equipped with computers, and that was in the beginning, it was very difficult to bring that aircraft to flight and to operate it. And we spent day and night, not only me, there was a team around the aircraft with a spirit that was incredible. Gilles, you will remember that time. Gilles was in the Gilles Robert. He was in the flight test team of Pierre Beau and Bernard Ziegler. And every day we have had the debrief, and Gilles has written what needs to be done, what is not working, and it was a lot. And we went out to fix it. And there was a competition between us. Nobody would like to be responsible for having a delay. The flight next morning, nobody would like to be responsible for not doing it. So we worked really for 1 year. It was day and night. And it was the whole team. There was a spirit around which you very, very difficult. I never find it after. Everyone was doing that. Everyone has disregarded the family, and he worked on that aircraft. And in fact, we have certified the aircraft 1 year later. We have had a difficult time for entry into service. We continued our support from flight test. Quite often I went to Air France and to the airlines to help them, because product support was not really used to support the airlines. When that period was finished, I went back to Hamburg to catch up on the A330, and then I came back to Toulouse and I did the same run on the A330 and A340 program. So another 3 years in Toulouse for building the aircraft, flight testing it, and so on. And when that was finished, I have worked 25 years on the design, on the aircraft, and I was ready to get let me say, a position, and I became local chief engineer for the A330 in Hamburg. And from that, I have developed further. I took the chief engineer of an aircraft which was at that time called FLA, the Future Large Aircraft. Today it is the F100M. I was 2 years chief engineer on that. That is what was not very long, but that was a time. And if Alain Cassier is watching outside somewhere, he will know that. That was a time where the configuration of the aircraft was defined. The wing attached to the fuselage, the center box, the T-tail, the configuration of the cargo door, the configuration of the gear, the position of the engine. That was the time which we worked on it and which we defined that. It was a bit boring because nobody was knowing program launched, program not launched, delays, and so on. And then it was offered to me to take the chief engineering of the A320 family, and I did that with pleasure. And in 1997, early in 97, I took chief engineering of the A320. The A320 family was at that time, I was knowing it very well because I was on the aircraft since the beginning, and was quite an insider for that aircraft. So a good preparation for being the chief engineer. That aircraft was developed as far as the family is concerned. And we started with the A320, and then the A319 was developed, and the first the A320. 21, then the A319. So a family of aircraft was developed. That was the development focus on the A320 program up to that time. And when I was chief engineer, I did that with one interruption in 2012. I did it for 12 years. And in that time, we have not done, let me say, major developments. We have prepared the aircraft for high rates. We have optimized the aircraft build so that you can build it. And we have actualized the systems because computer standards were evolving very, very quickly. And in the beginning, we have had very poor processors, and then we get second computer standard, third concept, and so on. So we worked basically on making the aircraft producible with high rates and making the aircraft reliable, because the dispatch reliability in that early days on the A320 were not very impressive. And where today it's very impressive. So there was a period to consolidate the program and to spend money to delete the weak items, change fuel system, and that kind of things. So very interesting period, but a very important period for the aircraft because after that it was consolidated and it was operating with very high reliability. It was operating very safely, and it could be produced at a price with a reasonable, say it in careful words, with a reasonable revenue. So that was my task on the A320. In between that, I was asked by Alan Garcia to take over the product integrity, that is the Office of Airworthiness in Airbus. That was in 2004. I was not very keen to do that because I felt very well in that position in the chief engineering, but Alan Garcia has pushed me to do that, so I did that. And I have taken over from Wolfgang Engler. Michel, you potentially know him. That was our first encounter because Wolfgang Engler and myself came to your office in Paris, and I was introduced as a small, felt very, on very unsafe ground that days. But I worked very, very hard to get rid of it, of that with a small feeling, and I have established a very good team based on the good work of Wolfgang Engler. For example, we have managed perfectly the certification of the A380. The A318 was one of the milestones which were done in time. Certification of A380 was nearly on time, on schedule. So we managed the certification of the A318. That is where we met again. I remember the ceremony where you were in the first row, where we put all the Patrick Goudou, yourself, and Nick Sabatini, I remember, close to each other, the top heads of the airworthiness authorities for us that time. On product in Turkey, I did that for quite a while. There was a second activity which we did, which was a very hard activity and which nobody has seen and which nobody has really recognized. That time we have installed the A320 final assembly line in China. And there was a question to put the regulatory base for that. And nobody was knowing how to do. So we, Product Integrity Office, came in charge of that. So I went to China and we developed the concept, and we presented the concept on two sides, to China and to the European, at that time, very young organization of Patrick Goudou to say. And our concept was, we built the aircraft in China under the full use of European rules. And we went to Patrick Goudou and asked him to support that. And he was just 2 years in a new built organization, no time for that exotic things. and he was throwing me out of the window. You know, saying, do what you want, but leave me alone. You know, we don't want to have worked with that. We have other tasks to do. We don't want that. And we went to China, and we have produced it as well. And again, we were thrown out of the window, a bit less friendly than in the Cologne office of Patrick, because I said, can you imagine, my friend, we build an aircraft in the center of France, and we apply the Chinese rules, and you stamp everything? Yeah? Can you imagine that? That was the answer. So, and then we have had 2 years of work. Every 3 months a meeting, every 3 months explaining what we are doing, every 3 months they explained their concept, we explained our concept, and there was no breakthrough. The breakthrough came when we have offered to them to learn how we do it. We have offered to them to take their teams integrated in our teams. So that was attractive for them because traveling was at that time in China not so common as it is today. So they came, they learned, we put them everywhere, even in Euro control, to see how we manage flight test. And they came, and bit by bit, we have turned them. And in the end today, we built an A320 in China. We have a final assembly line, very well operating, and the full thing operates under the coverage of European rules. They get European stamps and they accept them. And it was a tremendous task, but totally invisible. So when at a certain time in Airbus engineering, there were at that time always efforts to cut personnel, it's too big, too inefficient, and so on. So people came to me and said, your product integrity office is too big, you have to cut it by 2%. I have not agreed to that, and there was quite a dialogue between, at that time it was Patrick Cavin and Bernard Fontani. Both are members of the academy, and we ended in a disagreement, and I was taken away from the job. Unfortunately, my successor as chief engineer was retired, and I took back the chief engineering. And that was a very interesting period because that was a time where the engine manufacturers have offered the concept of the new power plant, the LEAP engine. Jacques Ranvier, I don't know if he is listening, was visiting us and telling us we can build an engine which is more effective, which can save 6-7% fuel. So we started to do that project, and that was the start of the Neo aircraft. Also, the start was difficult because Airbus management was not totally in the beginning supporting that. They were saying we have a 5,000 aircraft on order. We have a production line which works. We have reasonable revenues. Don't disturb that. But bit by bit, a long work to do all the pre-development work for the Neo aircraft. And finally, we have launched it. And after 1 year of the launch, I was retired. A bit later than normally because I would like to end that period, and I retired in 2012. So that is a short pass on what I have done in my career. And now I would let me say like to say what kind of messages I could leave out of that. What kind of message could be valuable? And I made a long list, and I have selected one item which I would like to talk quickly about it, just as initiating thinking a bit, and that is the subject on how we do design. And that question is triggered by the fact that if we build aircraft today, we are looking to the development cost, and we are looking to the development time, and we are looking to the quality in which we are capable to hold the plan. And we see that compared to development cost of A310 and development cost of A320, the development cost of today are tripling 5 times more than it was before. and even, yeah, how to say, it takes longer. It takes longer, and it is not a straightforward path. Always, it is 1 year longer, it is 1.2 years longer, and so on. So it is very, very difficult to manage these. And I asked the question, why we have built the A310 on time and basically on cost. Why we have built the A320, an extremely complex aircraft, technically. Why we have built that on time and on cost. The A320 the A320 program was scheduled in the beginning of 1982. And we have flown the aircraft. Gilles, you remember that? We have flown the aircraft 1 day later than scheduled, after 5 years. And we have certified it basically at the time, 1 year later, as scheduled. An A320, an aircraft which was the most complex aircraft that time. I'm not talking about Concorde. Jean, you forgive me, because Concorde is before my time. So I cannot talk about it, but I know that Concorde is the most complex aircraft we ever had. That aircraft is genius. No? But I will not talk about it. That is before my time. But A320 is, and we have profited from the Concorde experience, because the A310 and the A320 was built by the leaders.
Oui.
Monsieur Brohan, Monsieur
Moi non
Dequet,
plus, j'ai pas le son, Monsieur Béchet. Je
involved.
sais même pas comment le mettre chez moi.
Profited a lot from that experience.
Je vais recommencer aussi.
And these programs were made in time, and now the programs are not more complex than these aircraft, and we are not managing to do that. And the question is why? So, and I thought a bit what could be the reason for that. And if I think to my time as in the beginning, I was a designer. I was on the drawing board, and with a task to do mechanical items, mechanical flight controls, install torque shafts, pulleys, cable runs, and so on. Install that in a structure. And I was on the drawing board, and my group leader was behind me. And he told me what I should do. Oh, I started with that. And every half an hour, the group leader was passing by. He was looking to this one. There was an office with 30 drawing boards. And the group leader and the section leader was permanently circling around and seeing the growing design. And he was telling, I was doing the center line, and he was looking if it's correct, and I was doing a bearing, and he was saying, you put it the other way around. And he explained why. So there was a design, let me say, grown slowly under the leadership of somebody who knew what he wanted to do, who know how to put rivets, who know in which direction they put them in, how they put a screw. And as a mechanical example, for electrical, you can do the same. And
ouais, je ne sais pas vous dire, là, franchement, même moi, je n'ai pas de son, mais je ne sais pas pourquoi. Après, moi, l'autre fois, ça ne marchait pas, j'ai mis le micro, je pense que ça venait de mon ordinateur, j'ai mis un casque et après j'entendais. Que nous, on ne puisse pas parler, ça c'est normal, c'est bloqué. On n'entend pas nous, qu'on ne nous entende pas nous, mais logiquement, on devrait les entendre à eux. Mais je sais comment l'autre jour, j'étais obligée de brancher le casque pour pouvoir entendre. Peut-être que c'est ça chez vous aussi. Vous entendez?
And he was saying, hey, we cannot do that.
Ah oui, mais vous n'avez pas besoin de parler, c'est surtout dans le temps de la conférence que vous intéresse.
Or whatever.
Ouais.
So he was watching.
Parce que nous, on ne peut pas parler dans ce.
From a production point of view. And when I have finished with 1 square meter of drawing, after a week or 10 days, something like that, that was the time for a drawing like that, the content of the drawing was known. the quality of the things which were on the drawing was checked. The stressman has globally seen that it is correct. He could sign it. And the production guy has seen it as well, because he was sure that the items which are on there can be produced. So that was a bit simplifying a bit, but simplification make it more visible. That was the process. So
non, mais sur le clavier, vous n'avez pas un endroit où il y a le son qui sort et que vous pouvez couper le son?
After the 40 hours, there was a result which was
oui.
On vous entend tous.
Et oui, je peux couper le son et le remettre.
The production guy,
sur l'ordinateur, sur le clavier.
With his facility, and the facility was in-house. So if there was a design,
il faudrait éviter de parler.
Ah non, c'est carrément au bout du clavier, carrément à droite. Moi, je les ai, mais ça dépend des ordinateurs, en fait. C'est pas sur tous les ordinateurs pareil. Vous avez un...
Verification of the design was relatively easy. In the pre-design phase, as soon as something was pre-designed, it went to the carpenter shop and wooden mock-ups were done. The wooden mock-ups were done very quickly because they were experienced carpenter. They were knowing how to work with wood, and immediately they could do a rib, they could do a piece of spar, they could do a bearing, all these things in wood. And the designers could go and see how the integration works, because integration was always a big aspect. The integration, which is a major problem of today, was not a problem, because after I finished the drawing, I was in charge to say how many copies I need, because copies to do copies at that time was difficult. You know, there was no copy machine. The print shops were big machinery. The drawings were very large, 1 square meter, and the designer who has passed with his eyes 1 week, the same subject, was very well aware what is on the drawing. And he was very well aware that on that corner, there is something with hydraulics. And on that corner, there is a loom. And he was saying, 2 copies, one for the guy with the hydraulics and one for the guy with the loom. And he made 2 copies and he sent it to the guys. And when the guy received it, they will say, there must be a good reason that I received that. And they looked at it and they say, okay. And then the dialogue was there, and it works. It works quite well. So that was the principle. And when the production drawings were issued, even on critical areas, metal mock-up were done. Immediately, a metal mock-up was produced, and to check the tolerances and to check the finer things which you could not see in wood. And by that, the design process runs relatively on schedule and also on time, because if you're on schedule, you are mostly and also roughly on cost, because costs are linked to time. If you go to the other side, and if you go, how we do that today? Today, we are working with computer-aided design. It's not computer-aided design, it is even more. Today, a designer is not seeing the design anymore. A center line, to understand the geometry, you know, the guy who does the geometry of a wing flap mechanism, he is doing the center line from there to there. He's knowing exactly where the origin is and where the end is. And he is passing that center line 100 times a day in doing all of that. He is well aware where the center line is. In computer-aided design, you put a coordinate there, you put a coordinate there, you push the bottom, off, the center line is there. Nobody has seen what is on the way from up to down, because all of that is automatic. If you put a flange with screws, you know, you press the bottom and you say, okay, that flange, 6 screws, off. The computer-aided design is making your flange with 6 screws. It's not looking, is the top one there or is the top one there? Or is it from there or is it from there? And all of that is, let me say, for the designer, nowadays, far more difficult to recognize. So if a designer makes a drawing finished with one square meter of things like it was on paper, First, never has seen it in real. You always see it like that. And you can expand and you can, you don't see it in real. You are waiting that the computer telling me that doesn't fit or that fits. The intelligent is just there. And the group leader is never seen what the guy is doing. The group leader get presented the work when it is finished. When the 40 hours are gone, the group leader see it. And the production guys see it. And the stressmen see it. But not in a harmonized process. So, and the quality of the design is on one side higher because computer-aided design helps. But on one side, it is significantly lower because the group leader, if he see a design that the bearing is on the wrong side, he has to decide, I waste the 50 hours, which I in that design work, and I do it again, yeah? Or I release it and say, well, potentially it works. So that is an effect which we have got today. So the design quality is in overall, a lot of aspects are far better. You know, the tolerance is not anymore an issue. If you put two sections together, that fits. But in more detail, the smaller things very often have failures. And if you have to correct the failures, in the early days, it was very easy to go to the shop floor and to ask the guy who was on the machine to say, hey, what you done, and stop that and do it again. All of that is not feasible today. Today, everything is subcontracted. So the design itself is done by a subcontractor. And the subcontractor is subcontracting times again. And another one is subcontracting again. So the chain to do a loom is endless long and nearly invisible for the aircraft manufacturer. In the old days, if you have to add a wire, it was a relatively easy task. You went to Blagnac, to the wiring shop, and you ask how many looms you have done. And I said, for the SA20, the third one is in loom. I stop that and put it. There was a certain flexibility to manage changes and to do that. And in today's day, there is no flexibility at all. A loom is the wiring diagram is done by a subcontractor. The wiring, the result is going to a loom manufacturer. The loom manufacturer is going to a sub-manufacturer. And in the end, it goes to an anonymous shop, very, very well shops with high quality. We have seen one in Morocco together. But the way to arrive there is very, very long. And any step is a contract. You cannot say to the shops in Morocco, put a wire in. He has a contract, he has a base to work, the certification process works very, very firm, and it is not possible to put a wire. So you have to do all the chain along to make sure that a wire will be added in the loom shop in Morocco, and they stop for 10 aircraft the looms and redo it, and these type of things. So there's an inflexibility in our system today, which is the reason for the mess on the A380, you know, where one change after the other has appeared, and we have had in the previous programs the same number of changes, but the changes were possible to manage, which we are not can do today. As far as integration is concerned, I can give you a good example. When the A310 wing was done, there was a structure which was built in the UK, and there were the systems which were built in Bremen in Germany. I was in charge to do the coordination. So for 3 years, I went 1 week in England and 1 week in Germany. I was carrying the drawings from one place to the other. And I was well aware about any interface between the two. After 3 years, when the wing was appearing, I was knowing everything, every screw, every rivet, every designer, and only one person with a reasonable intelligence was capable to manage all the interfaces of a full wing. And look to the A380, where we have totally failed with these type of tasks because of the unflexibility of the system. In the new world, the function of the design office has changed totally. The top designers are not designing anymore. They're writing requirements. And they are writing requirements, and the other one have to understand. And at the end of the process, after a long chain of requirements, somebody is drawing something. So there's an inflexibility, and due to the inflexibility, there's also high cost. And we have seen that on the A380, where the system basically collapsed. And it was, for me, it was visible. But very, 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 very difficult. We have seen, let me say, many books. There was even a colloque on the academy on how to manage big programs, how to manage systems, and all these books and even the colloquium is concluding that today's programs are too complex to manage in an organized manner. If you summarize a bit and simplify a bit, the explanation is complexity of the aircraft. And what I'm saying is there are two types of complexities. There's technical complexity. Fly-by-wire, using of computer, using new materials. There's plenty of technical, using new aerodynamics, adapting new engines, and so on. There's purely technical complexity. This technical complexity is given, and this technical complexity was there on previous programs, which were properly managed. Concorde, Airbus, Concorde, I don't know, but it flew in the end. Properly managed. And there's another type of complexity, and I call that is homemade complexity. And this homemade complexity make it so difficult to do, and that is what the costs are increasing. Today, we have big groups of people who write requirements, big of people who are controllers, who are looking for fulfillment of requirements, and we have not enough engineers. And that is the reason why it is so expensive and it's so complex and do. So, one word about management before I stop. Also here, we have a huge change in culture. When I was on the A310 and when I was on the A320, I was a small engineer compared to the big ones. But I have personally seen, for example, Monsieur Plenier, the technical director of Aerospatiale at that time. And he came to Bremen and he spent one day on the A310 wing. And I was a guy who was knowing best all of that. So I spent a day with him and explained to him what we are doing and why it is there and why it is there. Very interesting. I learned a lot and I was impressed. Even I've seen Pierson. He was later on, it was said this morning, when we did the A320, Pierson was visible. Jean-Marie Bensoussan was talking every day to him. And he was really, let me say, a manager who understands what's going on and understand who could support it. I have never heard the word shareholder value, revenue, or these type of things from these type of managers. If I go now, what I have heard on the A320 program, when we propose to do a NEO, shareholder value, revenue, bottom line orientation, and all that things. So also the management with the growth of the company has changed a lot. The management goes away from I'm not saying that it's good or bad, I'm saying it's different. And it's going away from the past. So that is just I'm stopping now, Michel. let me say, the significant difference which I have seen on my past to do aircraft, to design aircraft. And I hope that once somebody will come, will write a book and will say, do a U-turn and will say, we have to do more by ourselves. We have to come back to, let me say, to a principle, not do it everywhere in the world and do it more concentrated, and then we can do better and more efficient. So thanks for listening, and good luck for who's the next one.
Thank you.